Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel. If you have read my latest post or listened to the audio of Chapter 1, The Awakening from Book 1, entitled Thus Saith the Lord, then you might enjoy this commentary. But first, ask yourself this question. What if everything we thought we knew about the Bible structure was completely backwards? I recently discovered something that shook my entire understanding of Scripture to its core.
That's quite a statement. What led you to this realization?
Well, I was studying this fascinating passage in Matthew where Jesus says something that completely challenges our modern interpretation. He explicitly states, I didn't come to destroy the law or the prophets, but to fulfill them. And here's the kicker. We've been reading fulfill as if it means complete and discard, when that's not what it means at all.
That's really interesting. How does this major misinterpretation affect our understanding of Scripture today?
Oh man, it changes everything. Think about it. Jesus goes on to say that not even the smallest letter of the law will pass away until heaven and earth pass away. Last time I checked, we're still very much here on earth. And get this, the early followers of Yeshua, they didn't suddenly stop being Jewish or abandon the commands God gave them. They continued to practice them even after Yeshua went back to heaven. You know what's fascinating about that? I found all this out because of careful study of Scripture. Did you know that the word Christian only appears 3 times in the entire New Testament? And it wasn't even their chosen label.
Right.
It was more like a nickname others gave them. And here's something that really blows my mind. Paul, who we often think of as the champion of breaking away from Jewish law, was actually still very much observing it. He took Nazirite vows, celebrated the festivals, the whole 9 yards.
So how does this understanding change our approach to faith today?
Well, this is what I found, and I must say, I didn't just stumble across this. The God of creation revealed to me this brilliant distinction. The distinction between what actually changed and what didn't. Like, yes, the sacrificial system changed because Yeshua, many today know him as Jesus. He became the ultimate sacrifice. The priesthood shifted. Gentiles could join without ethnic conversion, but, and this is crucial, God's definition of sin didn't change. His standard of holiness didn't change. His commands on what day we worship didn't change. His command on what we eat didn't change. His command on wearing visible markers as reminders to keep his commandments didn't change.
That must create quite a tension with how many modern believers approach Scripture today.
Exactly. We've gotten so comfortable with this idea that we can pick and choose what parts of God's commands still apply. But if God's standards and commands haven't changed, that means we need to seriously reconsider some things we've taken for granted.
You know, this reminds me of how we often create this false dichotomy between the Old and New Testament as if they're completely different messages.
That's such a good point. It's like we've created this narrative where the Old Testament God is all about rules and punishment, while the New Testament God is all about love and grace. But it's the same God. He didn't suddenly change his character or his expectations.
So what would you say are the practical implications of this understanding?
Well, first, we need to stop treating the Old Testament like it's just a collection of interesting stories with some moral lessons. These are the foundational texts that Yeshua and the apostles studied and lived by. And second, this is where it gets challenging. We need to be really careful about assuming something is done away with, unless Scripture explicitly says so.
That sounds like it could be quite overwhelming for someone just starting to see this perspective.
You know what? It definitely can be. But here's what's amazing. When you start reading the Bible as one continuous story instead of 2 separate books, everything makes so much more sense. The promises, the prophecies, the patterns, they all connect in ways you never saw before.
That's quite a journey to embark on. What would you say is the first step?
I think it starts with being willing to read Scripture with fresh eyes, without all our preconceptions. And most importantly, being ready to follow where that leads us, even if it takes us places we never expected to go. Because at the end of the day, truth matters more than comfort. And if we really believe Scripture is our authority, we have to be willing to align ourselves with what it actually teaches.